Well, I show that it's 12 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started so that we can be respectful of your time. If you do have a cell phone, if you would please make sure that it's on manners mode so that it doesn't disrupt the meeting. When you approach the podium, if you would make sure you press the button and identify yourself for the record. And we'll start with the first item.
Number 6A, renewal applications for existing city liquor licenses, retail, restaurant, limited retail, resort, bar and grill licenses, microbrewery, satellite distillery, special malt beverage, and winery permits filed with the city clerk's office.
Okay, staff report.
Ms. Chair, Madam Chair, Chris Jones, City Clerk. The applications before you have been reviewed by the City Clerk's office and the City Attorney's office, and they are in the process of being reviewed by the Wyoming Liquor Division staff. We do have 2 licenses that did not reapply this year due to closure of both of them. One is the bar and grill license with Billy Jack's and the restaurant liquor license with Rail Yard. We have a couple that are in the park status, Scooter Scoreboard, Horse Palace on Del Range, Cloud9 Restaurant and Bar, which is actually the new airport special retail liquor license, Blue Stem Wine House, and the Wyoming Horse Racing doing business as Horse Palace out on High Plains Road. And I try to address any questions you may have.
So just for clarification of the record, it's the Rail Yard, not the Rail Spur, correct?
You're correct, sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
Misspoke.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
Rail Yard.
Great. Is there any questions for staff from the committee?
Can you give us so I looked at one of your park statuses. It was for the Cloud9 Restaurant and Bar at, it looks like 300 East 8th Avenue, and that is the airport or the old parabolic structure airport, right?
Correct.
So is this specific type of license, this one was just for, because it looks like it's a retail liquor license, and so how long does that one can be parked? Because from what I understand, you know, that Art Cheyenne and everybody is trying to get that building like somewhat up operational. So when is it that we're gonna actually red flag it that, you know, come back to the city? Because I haven't heard of much progress going on the structure of the building.
Madam Chair, through you to Mr. Johnson. This is a new type of liquor license that's specifically for the airport.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay, anything online? Any public comment? Nothing online? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Cook and seconded by Councilman White. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous and this will be forwarded to the council meeting with or recommend. Next item.
Number 8, ordinance 3rd reading, amending certain sections of chapter 44 solid waste and chapter 56 noise control of title 8 health and safety, and further amending certain sections of chapter 8 offenses against public peace and decency, and chapter 12 offenses against property of title 9 public peace and welfare of the municipal code of the city of Cheyenne, Wyoming, to eliminate the potential imposition of a jail sentence for violation of specified code provisions.
Okay, staff report, Mr. Brody.
Madam Chairman, John Brody, City Attorney's Office. I don't know what the committee's preference is. There is a substitute for this, and I can certainly speak to that. I don't have any additional information to offer on the original.
Does anyone on the committee have any questions about the original? Okay, you want to go ahead and do the proposed should we do public comment on the original first? Hearing none. Okay, so now we're on the proposed.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So the substitute, and I believe the committee was provided an email that sort of went into more detail, but the substitute essentially fixes 3 material things. Page 7. There is a provision in there under paragraph 9 that makes certain conduct illegal while not making the other very related type of conduct illegal. If that were to go in front of a court, the court would probably not prosecute for that second kind of conduct. That being defecating in public versus urinating in public. I have spoken with Cheyenne Police Department, and they, I guess I don't want to speak for them, but they didn't raise any objections to me of why that shouldn't be covered in the city code. The second change is under paragraph 6. This is more of a technical change. Fighting words under the First Amendment may be limited or prosecuted depending on the type of conduct. Insulting words, on the other hand, are not of the same character. So the change here simply just keeps fighting words and it gets rid of insulting words. I don't think if we went to court, it would really cause a problem, but it's certainly more clear. And then the final change is on the bottom of page 9 and moving on to page 10. This is just a typographical error that we should have caught, but for the first 2 violations of shoplifting, the intent was that there would be a fine of not more than $750. Unfortunately, the original version of this instituted a mandatory fine of $750. So this just provides that clarification that this will be handled like any other fine in the city code, and it's up to $750 rather than a mandatory amount. So happy to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions from committee? Okay, any from public? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve on third and final reading.
Okay, we have a motion to approve on third and final reading. Is there a second? Hearing no second, it dies for lack of a second, so there will be no recommendation on Monday at the council meeting. Thank you.
Number 9, ordinance third reading, creating section 2.40.100, public defender and representation of needy persons, determination of need of chapter 2.40 municipal court of title II, administration and personnel of the municipal code of the city of Cheyenne, Wyoming, specifying public defender appointment procedures and standards for representation in the municipal court.
Right now.
No, I finished this item.
Okay. So staff report.
Madam Chairman, similar to the last proposal, I don't have any new information on the original, but I do have a substitute and I'm happy to speak to that when the committee's ready.
Okay. So we'll handle the original motion first. Is there any questions from the council? Committee members? Any public comment? Okay. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the substitute.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. So the substitute just deals with subsection F on page 2 of this substitute and of the original. Again, this is borrowed from state statute, but what subsection F does is allows the court to require the individual who has provided a public defender to reimburse the city for a portion of the services they were provided if the court determines that they do have the economic ability to pay for some of the services. And, you know, they weren't able to afford the entirety of council, but there's some amount that they would be able to provide in that regard. So the reason for the change is that in conversations with the municipal court and specifically Judge Jeffries in the juvenile court, there were concerns that were raised with you having a juvenile that is in a situation where either his legal guardian or his parent may be a victim, or the juvenile, lacking maturity may believe that the best interests are served by them serving as their own counsel during a bench trial or a jury trial. So what this does is basically pulls out juvenile cases from that reimbursement authority for the court so that the child and the parents are never in a situation where they're weighing retaining a public defender versus defending themselves or having their interests represented in front of the juvenile court. So it just clarifies that. That's the only change.
Yes, Councilman White.
Question, Madam Chair. Mr. Brody, you said subsection F. Can you give us the page on that? Because there's a few different subsection Fs.
Just a moment. Page 2, subsection F.
Page 2, subsection F. Okay, thank you.
Oh, and then, Madam Chairman, can I offer just one thing?
Sure.
The chairman had made a comment, council last Monday about, perhaps modifying this proposal and only having whether somebody is qualified for certain types of assistant be the litmus test. Thinking about that a bit more, I think the concern that raises constitutionally is that a person may be entitled to representation and not necessarily qualify for those federal benefits. I guess I would be concerned from a constitutional perspective if only the benefits were the bar that had to be met when it came to public defender.
Thank you. And that is additional information because that's not one of the proposed amendments, correct?
No, you had
Yeah.
raised it once in committee and I think at council too, so I
Yeah.
figured I should speak to it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions from the committee members? Any public comments? Hey, just as a point of clarification, we have a motion and we have a proposed substitution or a amendment, or I guess it's a proposed substitution, so, no, I know. But we're gonna have a motion. I'm anticipating, we are gonna have a motion. So, any further discussion? Okay,
Madam Chair, I would move to approve on third and final reading.
okay, is there a second? Okay, we have a motion.
And
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I would move to amend by substitute dated February 27th, 2024.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman White and a second by Councilman Cook for the proposed substitute. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
There's no second on this.
Right. Right.
Yes, I will. Second the.
Proposed substitute. So we have a motion and a second on the proposed substitute. Any discussion? Councilman Cook?
Yes.
The reason I was very hesitant, but I ultimately decided to second this was in regards to what Mr. Brody stated about the families and the parents of juveniles. So really, I took that as a change that needs to happen. That is something that I would support. That is the reason that I step forward to second and that I plan to support this. So we have a recommendation for approval next Monday. At least I hope we can get to that point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the proposed substitution. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, this will, the proposed substitution will move forward to the council meeting with a due recommend for Monday evening. So we're now going back to the main
As
motion,
amended.
yep, as amended. So I would entertain a motion to adopt the resolution as amended.
Do we need a motion? Just a vote.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yep.
So all in favor of the yes, motion is amended.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and this meeting will, this item will move forward with a do recommend. As a point of clarification, I'm wondering if we need to go back to the last item because we never even got to the proposed substitute. Okay, okay. So I just want to make sure that we didn't miss it. Great, thank you. Awesome.
Number 17, resolution approving the Department of Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program grant for lighting upgrades for the Cheyenne Civic Center.
Okay, staff report?
Good afternoon, Renee Smith, and I have a new job title. And so it'll take me a while to get used to it. So it's Economic Resource Administrator. So change from Grants Manager, but this still falls under me. So before you, this is a formula grant from the Department of Energy, and it just required some pretty extensive work to put forward our plan for some energy savings. And so the project is for the Civic Center lighting. It's a complete retrograde for the inside and outside, and they're matching funds going into it. It's basically coming from the one-time capital equipment fund, fifth penny special tax fund for the complete project. And we're hoping to get this off and running this summer. But I do have Public Works and CRA here who can answer specific questions for you that I don't have, but I can speak to the grant.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions from the committee?
I just have one question, Madam Chair, through you. Renee, do we know how old that lighting is in the Civic Center? I assume it's quite old.
So, Madam Chair, I believe it's original.
Original.
Original. So we expect to see some significant cost savings and safety.
I would
upgrades.
expect that an upgrade would be due by now. So thank you for that information.
Any other questions from committee? Any public comment? Hey, hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Cook and a second from Councilman Johnson to adopt. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and this will move forward with a recommendation to council meeting on Monday. Next item.
Number 18, resolution expressing the support of the governing body for city staff to review and rewrite the city's parking ordinances for the purpose of introducing paid on-street parking in downtown Cheyenne and directing city staff to submit the ordinance rewrite for governing body consideration.
Okay, staff report.
Hey, I'm Joel Hickerson. I'm the Support Services Lieutenant for the Cheyenne Police Department. This resolution for paid on-street parking and rewriting of our parking ordinances is before you. This item is intended to express support of the elected city officials to review and rewrite our current parking ordinances for paid on-street parking, as well as having city staff review and rewrite the associated ordinances for our parking. The request for review and rewrite of the ordinances would clarify and make more concise the verbiage of parking ordinances while ensuring due process rights of the public, which, as we know, we've kind of struggled with that sense of due process. The proposal would also provide more flexibility for downtown parking for employees and consumers, while also encouraging parking turnover and providing less expensive and more flexible options to be available partially on street and more directly within the parking garages. An app-based paid on-street parking program through our current provider would strike a balance between those parking short-term and those parking long-term on a given day. As you know, right now, for the most part, it's 2 hours maximum. And if you violate that, it's a $20 hit if you pay it early, $30 if you pay it on time, and $60 if you're late. That gets quite expensive quite quickly. Having this on-street parking app-based system would make it much cheaper than that really hard hit. The ordinance changes will require pricing and zoning recommendations of on-street parking areas using relevant data, community input, and best practice recommendations. We would all work as a team to make sure we get there.
Thank you, Lieutenant Hickerson. And thank you to the police department for the parking forum that was done for the community last week as well. Really nice job by Mr. Sanchez and by Captain James. So
Thank you so much.
really helpful. Any questions from committee? Any public comments? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I would move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman White and a second from Councilman Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing-
Yes, Madam Chair, through you. So I was not able to, I think I might have been one of, if not the only member of the governing body who was not able to attend last week, but I'm just curious. Very quickly, if someone can, or if maybe after the meeting, but I'm just wondering how the community members reacted to paid on-street parking. What was the temperature of the water after that was brought up?
Councilman White?
Madam Chair, through you to my colleague from Ward 2, the downtown business owners that I spoke with after that parking forum were extremely positive about the information that was presented to them. One business owner, and I can quote her, said that she was willing to try anything new compared to what we have been doing. And just to echo our chair's comments, the parking presentation was extremely well done by Captain Janes and Jason Sanchez, and anyone, any members of the public who didn't get to see that, I think it's still posted up on the CPD Facebook page, and it really is educational and very well done.
Thank you. Did that answer all of your questions, Councilman Cook?
He mentioned business owners. I'll just go ahead and I'll go back and check it out. This isn't, I will go ahead and support this today. I was just curious, not necessarily about the business owners, but members of the public who would have to be using it. So, but I will, in the interest of time, Madam Chair, I will go back and look at that on the Facebook page and form my own conclusions.
I
Thank
think
you.
that we had about 50 people that were in attendance, and I think they said 77 online. So it was really well received and well attended, I thought. So yes, Lieutenant Hickerson.
Madam Chair, through you, in response to that, we did have several members of the public there who gave specific examples as to how they felt this would benefit them. Particularly, we had individuals who indicated that the block face aspects are confusing, and being able to simply park in a given area and move if they need to, say they happen to come back later in the day and they're on that same block face. Having that clarification where that's not an issue would be beneficial to them. Another one we had specifically was individuals who go for appointments such as a hair salon. Many times those take well over 2 hours. Being able to pay $1 for that versus $30 for a ticket was very well received.
Thank you for that, Mr. Hickerson. Madam Chair, through you,
Yes.
I'm glad Mr. Cook and I don't have to worry about that hair salon type appointments.
Hey, speak for yourself. I could get a little bit up here, but you're in trouble.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, any other comments? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman White, second from Councilman Johnson. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, this item will move forward with a recommend from this committee. Next item.
Number 19, resolution expressing the support of the governing body for an action plan to address deficiencies regarding sidewalks in the downtown development district.
Councilman Laybourne.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. There has been quite a bit of work done preliminarily to this adoption, hopeful adoption of this resolution. And I would defer to City Engineer Tom Cobb and his efforts. I believe he's got a presentation to make, and then hopefully we can hear from Charles Bloom about the DDA's aspect of all this.
Thank you. Mr. Cobb?
Madam Chair, members of the Finance Committee, Tom Cobb, City Engineer. So Mr. Laybourne came to me about a week or so ago and let me know that this was moving forward. So we got a little ahead of this. And so we put a committee together kind of on Friday and spent about 2 hours kind of going through what we could do. And there were a lot of heated debates about what we could do. But I think what I've done is I've synthesized a lot of information and came up with a different idea, and just wanted to give you guys kind of an idea of where we were headed with this in advance. So
Thank you.
I'm going to cover through, if you go to the next slide, Jennifer. Want to really cover what are the deficiencies downtown, what we've already accomplished, because I think that message doesn't get out to all of you. How can we build on what's been accomplished? And then what actionable items we need to really address and move forward with your resolution. Next slide, please. So in 2021, I started an inventory of basically trying to get the whole city done. This was the internship program that I started. So in 21, they started, and that map that I want to show you are all the indications of all the hazards and ratings that they've come up with just in the DDA boundary there in blue. We've already taken care of the south DDA component. Mr. Klon and his group put together a project, and we did a maintenance rehab for basically that entire area. So that one's been finished, and that's why I didn't show that there. We did look at hazard ratings and they've identified them in this order. It's a little confusing, but it's basically from the minor is number one, number two is moderate, then it goes to significant, severe, and then extreme. And I gave you some examples on the right there of the significant, severe, and extreme. Those when you pull up in that GIS map, then each one of them is mapped and measured. So that's why we've done an extensive effort downtown to get all this put together. And I just gave you a little link. This has been going to be forwarded through you through Jennifer, but I don't know if you have access to that map. I'm hoping you do, but you can go in and look at your leisure to see more. Next slide, please, Jennifer. So this was the original plan that Mr. Laybourne had pointed out to me that was done by the DDA and the Main Street Curb and Gutter Replacement Project of 2014. It identified a lot of curb and gutter, some sidewalk replacement repairs associated with DDA properties downtown and their ownerships. It provided some cost estimates, and as we all know, those estimates now are kind of out the door. 2014, we're running probably 50 to 60% higher than what we were in 14. And then it proposed at that time, and this is what made me kind of think where we are now. It proposed a collective partnership based on block by block for them to participate, but there wasn't a lot of action because nobody really wanted to put their money together to move forward with really anything to improve it. So right now with what we've done from our engineering department and the 1% construction department and WIDOT, we've completed approximately 50% of the curb and gutter that was identified in 2014 over the last 10 years. And really, most of that work's been accomplished in the last 4.5 years since I've been here. So Doug and his group have done an excellent job of really getting the curb and gutter under control. And then along with the ordinance that you all passed for the DDA specifically, we were able to do a lot more with curb and gutter than we've ever been able to do before. And those two components together is kind of how we've made all the progress. And again, that was based on some capital construction and then also our pavement maintenance program. Next slide, please. So the goals of what I understood from this really is to build on the premise of the DDA Main Street Curb and Gutter Replacement Program, to really get the economy of scale. So putting together, blocks and systematic approaches to this so that we could collaborate together to make some progress. And then cultivate these public-private partnerships and be fiscally responsible about what we do. And then actions, I would look at this as sort of a reimagined or reinvent the DDA Main Street program, curb and gutter replacement program, really build on the city DDA curb and gutter rehab program that we've already started and look at some alternative funding options and then allow for temporary repair of DDA sidewalks. And this is the component that's a bit different that I built on from the original ordinance that you all passed. I started looking at this in a different way that we looked before as if the city was going to put public funds moving forward, that we really had to fix all of it. ADA meant fixing ADA. And what we have a lot of out there are a lot of hazardous conditions that exist, and we can't meet ADA, but we can fix some hazards. So in other words, cross slopes are going to exceed 2%, but we really have to find what I call a transitional method that we're going to tell the DOJ that we're going to make the fixes eventually. But right now, let's get rid of the worst hazards. We understand that it's not going to meet completely with ADA. So this is the approach that's a bit different. So next slide, please. Kind of lay this out, and I'm sorry it's kind of complex, but I'll try to simplify what this is trying to show. All I'm trying to say is the rehabilitation program strategies are basically components of 4 different items. They're comprised of, well, we're going to get rid of the extreme, severe, and significant hazards in those sidewalks. We're going to focus on Capitol Avenue. Then after that, then we looked at the CFD parade route and then others to be determined. And that's kind of where our focus has been with the curb and gutter replacement program, just similar to that. Again, most significant first, and then Capitol, and then CFD, and then other. And as of right now, we're already we're putting 4 projects together for the curb and gutter replacement that are just on Capitol alone that you haven't seen yet. We're doing contracts under $75,000 and it wouldn't come to you. And so that program is being designed and placed for this summer. And we're not going to do them all in the same year. We're looking at the next 4 years of putting these little projects out for curb and gutter replacement. Similar to that then with this new component is the sidewalk component. And so those two programs are broken into two pieces. We got the curb and gutter replacement program, which is already in place. And now this new piece is the sidewalk rehabilitation program, which would be property owner driven. So the way it would work, and this is the third box over, is that we would then do a notification to the proposed property owners, and we would look at this in a systematic way, meaning we're going to look at these on a block by block basis and be able to put the same idea that the DDA plan had together, collaborate together, put them together. But the nuance is now it's going to be a city-based project, and we'll send them a letter and we'll give them three options. That's in the where I have the property owner options. They'll have three ways of doing this. They can move together with us on our public-private partnership, which is where we have a public project. And then, or they can proceed on their own if they want to fix it and then call for inspections. And then also then with that, I'll go into the next box. I probably should let me go back up to the first one with their first option with the public-private partnership. Then with the funding option, we would then create the DDA CIG program, go in with us on this. And then the funding source from our side is the fifth penny. And again, the nuance to this is we really can't spend fifth penny dollars on the sidewalk. So what we would ask them then is the city property owner then would reimburse us. We're just getting together as a public project, putting it forward, and then allowing them to pay us back into that fifth penny fund. This is a little bit different than what we've done before. Now, I also had Stephanie in the room with us on Friday to make sure that this was a legal action that we could do. And what I understand is yes. So that's the way that would work with the public-private partnership. The second component then, if the private owner wanted to move forward on their own, they could then do that. They would fund it out of their own pockets. And they also could go to the DDA and apply for that CIG grant. The last component is if a property owner just said, well, I don't really want to do anything, I'm just going to ignore it, then we would look then just to go ahead, put it on our project, move forward, and then we'd use the municipal code under special assessments, and we would lien the property and get the money back and reimburse the fifth penny. So that's the way we were thinking forward. And the last slide, please. So what actionable items are needed to move forward? Obviously, the council resolution would help some of this to us to formalize and complete it. We'd formalize that sidewalk rehab program a little bit further. I think I've vetted it pretty well, but there's obviously some things that I would need to introduce, meaning who would manage this, how it would move forward. And then I think we need an MOU between the city of Cheyenne and the DDA for the CIG program so that we could have sort of one application and then approval of the DDA board to be able to move forward this utilizing funds for their CIG program that would be half fifth penny, half CIG. And then develop this service-based these contracts, and this was actually Mr. Klon's idea. So what we would do is we would get a contractor on board for under $75,000, and then we would pick where it goes. So we wouldn't have a specific location to start. We develop unit prices for each of the components that we want to fix, and then go up to that $75,000 amount. So it's a very interesting idea, something different than we've ever done before. And then continue our systematic DDA curb and gutter replacement program as we are doing now. As I indicated to you, we have a series of 4 projects that'll be launched over the next 4 years. Now, how far we get with the 75,000 on the curb and gutter, I really don't know yet, but you can see back to the original slide that I showed, there's some significant issues, but I think we'll see how far we can actually get with this. And then lastly, to ensure that the city of Cheyenne does update their ADA transition plan, and I need to put a provision in for these, what I call these temporary repairs. And we all have to understand that, again, this is a transitional repair. This isn't a fix that it can't be done immediately. This is going to be a 10 to 20 year thing that it's going to have to continue over that time frame to eventually replace all of this to get it ADA compliant. And, you know, like we have a project on 18th Street that we've got forwarded to move forward soon. That's what we're going to have to do. That's an extensive effort, but you're looking at millions of dollars for that reconstruction project. We're probably looking at 8 to 10 million. So that's kind of where I'm at. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Charles, and he can talk a little bit more specifically about the CIG and the DDA.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, the CIG program, that stands for Capital Improvement Grant, has taken a lot of different shapes and and forms over the course of the last decade. But right now, it is a grant program that is a 50-50 match that is up to $50,000 for individual property owners. So what we would need to do is bring this forward to the Downtown Development Authority Board for their approval to see how we would want this to be framed. Right now, someone could apply for an application for CIG for up to $50,000 and have that 50-50 match. That's been used for building facades, been used for open spaces in buildings, benches, fixtures, awnings, and even in some cases, sidewalk repair in the downtown today. What we're looking at is different ways that we can frame that as we move forward over the course of the next year. This last fiscal year for the DDA, they have actually granted out $392,000 towards CIG projects. So that's a hefty amount of grants. That represents at least $392,000 in private investment to match that at that 50-50 grant level. Most of the applications, they just reached the max. That means there has been a lot more money, private money that has been invested in the downtown areas. Questions we intend to ask the DDA is, should we look at the 50-50 match for areas when they opt in? Should there be a benefit for them opting in at upfront? Should there be a different benefit level for someone who is taking advantage of it prior to that public-private partnership? And in addition, we want to differentiate what those match levels would look like for non-tax paying members within that district. Presently, exclusively residential uses and tax exempt properties such as churches, government offices, those do not pay into the mill levy. Should they be able to participate in the matching program or should they not? Right now, we believe that they do represent part of the urban fabric of the downtown because one property depends on the next property. So those are all questions that we intend to ask the DDA board. We do expect to bring this forward to their next meeting, which is the third Thursday of March, following approval of this resolution. Regardless, the DDA does believe that this is a valuable program to help improve safety and the pedestrian mobility throughout the downtown area.
Okay. And I think Mr. Laybourne wanted to finish up.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm very grateful for all the effort that's gone into this. As you can see, it's long overdue and certainly it's people might not understand all the complexities that go into a program of this nature and all those different property owners and different sites. But it is something that I want to point out is a long-term project with the Mayor's Council for People with Disabilities. And this really matters to people with adaptive use like a wheelchair. But we're seeing an aging population. I'm getting a knee surgery pretty soon, and I might be using a walker when I go around my property. So that's a real important point here is that it is a real huge benefit to that property owner to remove that liability as noted in the whereas clause. And it really is something that I think is important, and I hope will be noted that when we begin this and make it work, it's going to show a real reason why the DDA came over to the city. Because I've been frustrated for many years by the fact that as an independent agency, all too often the DDA would say, well, that's not ours. And so you can see that the meeting Friday where you had all the responsible parties there and worked out that PowerPoint that Mr. Cobb just showed, really showed a level of cooperation I haven't seen before. And that I think ties excellently in with the matters that were discussed here earlier, which is of course the parking and the efforts that are being made in the parking structure. So this is part of a movement in downtown Cheyenne that can demonstrate our commitment and have that long-term benefit. So I want to thank everyone involved for their effort because what they really were doing here was beginning the work now. This resolution calls for the end of the month. We're already well on our way, so I think that it's a really good positive effort that goes along with other downtown efforts at a particularly tipping point moment. So if there's any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer.
Well, thank you, Councilman Laybourne. And I see that we also have the chairman of the Mayor's Council for People with Disabilities, Patty Riceland, on. Any other staff report or comments? We'll take questions from the committee.
Madam Chair, through you.
White?
I think the question that I have would be best addressed by either Mr. Cobb or Stephanie. And it pertains to the business owner if they don't want to opt into something like this. So how do you work? Like, my question would be, so if I own a business down, first off, let me just say I'm in complete support of this. And I applaud the efforts from everybody involved. Mr. Cobb, especially you. I can't tell you how many city engineers just in the 10 years I've been on council that wouldn't even think of doing something like this because it's outside the box. So I applaud you for your innovative thinking. And of course, the efforts of my colleagues, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Laybourne, and Mr. Seagrave. But Stephanie, so my question, if I own a business and this is going to be done, but then let's just say I go out of business, somebody comes in, how does that work with the transition? And then would they get the choice to opt out if they wanted to at that point? Or would they be committed to moving forward?
Chairman, through you to Councilman White, it would be the property owner that would opt in or out, which may or may not be the business owner. So if, and we would put a lien on the property. So if you were to sell your property to somebody else, that lien would either be taken care of likely by the former property owner. In the situation, and maybe you're speaking to this, where you sell your property and then this all comes into play, that new property owner would be responsible for that cost.
Okay, so another question then, and one of the things that seems to have always blocked us when trying these types of things in the past, the out-of-state property owners who really just in some cases, they just look at their property as a tax write-off and they have no, whatever the reason, no motivation to keep that property up and maintain their investment in our downtown, much to our chagrin. So how does it work with an out-of-state property owner? How do you communicate with them that their property is going to be lien? Because, we've tried that sometimes and they thumb their nose at us. So how do we overcome that?
Madam Chairman, through you to Councilman White, and I forgot to identify myself prior to this, Stephanie Boster, Cheyenne City Attorney. I think we talked about this on Friday as a group. We'd provide ample notification to the property owner, but if they failed to respond, we would still move forward and lien their property.
Fantastic.
Any other
Thank you.
questions?
No other questions?
Any other questions from committee?
Yeah, I'll have one. I just want to commend staff and Mr. Laybourne, Mr. Seagrave. This kind of materialized around 3.5 weeks ago. So the expediency that from the resolution to the PowerPoint and everything, you guys are all to be commended on the amount of work that took place in the last 3.5 weeks.
Yep, it's awesome. Any other comments from committee? Any public comments? Seeing none or hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman White, a second from Councilman Johnson to adopt. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This item will move forward with a recommendation.
Madam Chair, before we move on to the next agenda item, I do have to get back to work.
Thank you. So, clerk is noted for the record that Mr. Johnson has had to leave the meeting, so we'll move forward. And
Number
next item.
Number 20A, agreement between the City of Cheyenne and Whitney Ranch Third and Fourth Filing LLC for a temporary construction easement for the Dell Range Van Buren Improvements Project.
A staff report by Mr. Klon, it looks like.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Before us today is this temporary construction easement, which will reimburse the property owner for $250 or in the amount of $250. The need for this is in association with the Dell Range Van Buren Improvement Project. And we will require working on their private property and in some cases improving their private property in order to be for the drainage to work in conjunction with our new project. So the duration of this agreement is coincides with the duration of the construction project that we'll cover later today.
Okay. Is there any questions from committee for Mr. Klon? We have 5 of these, I believe, to do, so this is the first of 5. Any questions? Okay, any public comment? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve in an amount not to exceed $250.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. White and a second from Mr. Cook. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? This item will move forward with recommendation.
Number 20B, agreement between the City of Cheyenne and Benjamin D. Ward and Kimberly Ann Ward for a temporary construction easement at 4608 James Drive for the Dell Range Van Buren Improvements Project.
Staff report, Mr. Klon.
Again, and I don't believe I introduced myself last time, so just in case, Doug Klon, construction manager for the city. This easement as well is required for the Dell Range Van Buren Improvement Project. It just is between the city and another resident in the amount of $250 reimbursement for construction work necessary on or around their property.
Okay, any questions from committee? Any public comment? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve in an amount not to exceed $250.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Councilman Cook and a second from Councilman White. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This item will move forward with recommendation. Next item.
Number 20C, agreement between the City of Cheyenne and Jeff Triffin and Katrina Crossland for a temporary construction easement at 5700 Dell Range Boulevard for the Dell Range Van Buren Improvements Project.
Okay,
Madam Chair, this easement is also required for the Dell Range Van Buren Construction Project for work on and around the Treffrin's property and will reimburse the resident at a rate of $250.
it should be noted that this is also still Mr. Klon. Any questions from committee? Any public comment? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve in the amount not to exceed $250.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Cook and a second by Councilman White. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, this item will move forward with recommendation. Next item.
Number 20D, agreement between the City of Cheyenne and Jeff T. Triffin for a temporary construction easement at 5708 Dell Range Boulevard for the Dell Range Van Buren Improvements Project.
Madam
Okay,
Chair.
staff
Doug
report.
Klon- Doug Klon, construction manager. This agreement is also for improvement along the Dell Range Van Buren corridor. It also is to Mr. Treffin. It is just it is a different property, so it is not a repeat of the last one. That this work will reimburse the resident in the amount of $250.
Any questions from the committee? Any public comment? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I move to approve in an amount not to exceed $250.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman White and a second from Councilman Cook. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this item will move forward. Next item.
Number 20E, agreement between the City of Cheyenne and Brandon Myers and Heather Myers for a temporary construction easement at 5420 Dell Range Boulevard for the Dell Range Van Buren Improvements Project.
Staff report.
Madam Chair, Doug Klein, Construction Manager. This is our fifth and final easement request in association with the Dow Range Van Buren improvements for work in and around this property, and it will reimburse the resident in the amount of $250.
Okay, any discussion? Questions from committee? Public comment? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve an amount not to exceed $250.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman White, a second from Councilman Cook. To accept this, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, this item will move forward with a recommendation. Next item.
Number 22B, consideration of bid number S-1 24 for an agreement between the city of Cheyenne and Ryman and Aztec JV Limited Partnership for the Dell Range Van Buren Improvements Project from 2019-2022 optional 1% sales tax fund, American Rescue Plan, federal recovery funds, and developer joint projects.
Okay, staff report.
Madam Chair, Doug Klein, City Construction Manager. Before us today is the contract proposal for the Dell Range Van Buren improvements that we spoke of earlier. The main goal of this project is to install a much needed stormwater system that not only services the current development, but has been designed for future capacities as well. This section is Dell Range, just east of Van Buren and to just west of Whitney Road, will be fully reconstructed, widened, and include sanitary sewer and water main additions. Van Buren Avenue will include repair of any concrete that is in disrepair and full replacement of the asphalt, including striping in an effort to reduce traffic speeds. The city has received a SLIB grant funded by ARPA in the amount of $1 million to assist in the funding of this project. Additionally, there's a development agreement between the city and Whitney Ranch Third and Fourth Filings LLC for proportional reimbursement of this project as detailed in contract 7732, which was agreed upon last year in April. I do have copies of that if you would like those. It details all the vehicles of how the reimbursement will work. There are several different criteria outlined in that contract. As far as this project goes, we've received 3 bids with Ryman Aztec joint venture being the low estimate. Staff has reviewed these contract documents, determined that we will include bid alternate number 2 for temporary surfacing and bid alternate number 3 for temporary traffic signals for a total contract amount of $9,287,323.65. And staff recommends proceeding with the contract approval. Stand for questions.
Okay, do we have any questions from committee? Nope. Any public comments? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the bid in an amount not to exceed $9,287,323.65.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman White and a second from Councilman Cook. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 This item will move forward with a recommendation to the council meeting on Monday night. Next item.
Number 22C, consideration of bid number S-11 24 for an agreement between the city of Cheyenne and Mechanical Systems Incorporated for the Cheyenne Sanitation Transfer Station Lift Station Installation Project.
Hey, staff report.
Madam Chair, Adele Bartel, Public Works Staff Engineer. Mechanical Systems, Inc. has agreed to install the lift station and all of its components and any other equipment related to it for a total of $111,417. I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions from committee? Any public comment? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Yes, Madam Chair, I move to accept the bid in the amount not to exceed $111,417.00.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Cook and a second from Councilman White. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this item will move forward with a recommendation to city council on Monday night. Next item.
Number 22D, consideration of bid number E-12 24 for multiple 20 passenger buses for the City of Cheyenne Transit Program.
Staff report.
Vicky Nemechek, Public Works. This is for the purchase of up to 10 replacement 20-passenger route buses over the next 3 years. We plan to replace 4 this fiscal year, 3 in 25 and 3 in 26. We did spec up to 10 so that we don't have to go out for bid every year, and it does make it quicker for the process to happen. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from committee?
Just one question, Madam Chair, through you to Vicky. Are we seeing faster turnaround time now when it comes to vehicles? When it comes to making the purchases and then actually having them delivered, or are we still kind of moving at a snail's pace? I would think hopefully faster than we had in previous years.
Chairman, through you to Councilman White, I would say it's very dependent on the industry. It seems like some lower model, like on Ford's as an example, if you're buying an F-150, we were seeing those in 2 or 3 months, but the Super Duties, which are 250s and 350s and above, we're still seeing really, really long lead times. Sorry, I forgot to identify myself as well. TJ Bartlebort, Purchasing Manager. We think, based on the delivery date for this bid, for the first year of buses that we order, we have a 210 delivery day. So 210 days after we place our order, we should see buses. That includes all the upfit, the vinyl graphics and everything. Vicky can confirm this. We have been seeing a lot of requests for extensions on deliveries as well. Things are, I think, just supply chain with pieces, parts, plows, bodies. We're better than we were in COVID, but it's still slow. How about that? Thank you, sir.
Thanks for the information, TJ.
Any other questions? I had one question. Are these gasoline powered? And did we look at hybrid or for any grants that would have subsidized those that might have been a hybrid?
Chairman, through to you, TJ Bartlebort, Purchasing Manager. These are a 6-liter minimum V8 gasoline engine for these buses. I don't believe that we did not include a hybrid as an option. I don't know, Vicky might be able to speak to that a little bit, but I can try a little bit on the fleet side at least. The technologies in the maintenance side of that, we're pretty much a gasoline and diesel run fleet. And so the training mechanics on how to work on the EVs is a whole new world that we're not really there, and the infrastructure to support charging of those EVs. So, did I miss anything, Vicky? Okay.
So Renee Smith, just to speak to the grants, Madam Chair, I have talked to Renee Jordan about this because there's a lot available. We're working on some infrastructure grants coming in the next about 4 months. It will trickle down to buses eventually, but right now it's just not feasible. Some of it had to do with the run time. It was the explanation I received was the length of time we run the buses isn't compatible with the charging and being able to actually run a full day. We don't have the inventory to maintain that, if that helps.
And I know that they're not efficient during the winter, but during the summer, it would sure be nice if we were able to rely on that.
My
So-
goal is to go that direction after this summer, after we get through the first round of grants, to start adding to that.
Great, thank you.
I would say, Vicky Nemechek, Public Works, I would say that at this point, we would need 2 buses for every one that we own now in order to get through a day. And that's our major problem right now. Because we start running the buses at 6 in the morning and we go until 7 at night. They just won't go that all day. And you can't charge them up fast enough to get back.
That's why I was thinking a hybrid might be an answer, so, yeah, great. Well, thank you for thinking in that direction, because I think eventually we'll be there, so. Any other questions?
Madam Chair, I
Yes.
certainly do.
Okay,
Director, could you please go over again sort of what's the time period for changing these out? And I just want to make sure it says 20.
No,
So-
20 passenger, 10
Okay,
buses.
so it says
They are 20
consideration of bid E-12-24 for multiple 20-passenger buses. So how many buses are we ordering?
We intend to get 10 buses
And
that
they
are
all-
20
and-
passenger.
And they
buses.
are all 20-passenger
That's
buses.
correct.
So then, Director, if I may follow up through you, Madam Chair, what is the time period for making these purchases?
That, Chairman, through you, We plan to buy 4 this fiscal year and then 3 the following fiscal year and then 3 more the last fiscal year of the contract.
And then one last at least one last follow-up, Madam Chair. Director, then what is our process or what do you anticipate will be our process for the old buses that will be taken out of circulation? What's going to happen to
Through
those?
you, Madam Chair, we will auction those buses. We asked for trade-in, but they
Yeah.
weren't interested.
Yeah, we typically, in response, Madam Chair, through you, yes, I know in the past, Director, we have typically sent those to auction, so I just assumed that would still be the case. Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
all I
Any other
had, Madam
questions?
Chair.
Any other questions? Any public comment? Okay, so hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the bid from Model One Commercial Vehicles, Inc., DBA Creative Bus Sales, Inc., in an amount not to exceed $1,661,767.40.
I'll second it for the purposes of giving it a recommendation next Monday night.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman White, second from Councilman Cook. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No,
Opposed?
yes, I am opposed.
Okay, okay, this item, will, do I have to vote? Okay. Okay, well, I will vote yes as well. So this item will move forward with a recommendation to council on Monday night. Next item.
Number 24A, resolution supporting the Cheyenne Regional Airport Board in the application for an acceptance of federal assistance from the Federal Aviation Administration under the Airport Improvement Program to assist in the purchase of snow removal equipment.
Hey, staff report.
Sure, Renee Smith, Economic Resource Administrator. Basically, these next two resolutions are just supporting the grants that the airport is submitting. It's a requirement for the FAA that the mayor sign these agreements once they come in. So we are putting forth these resolutions, supporting and basically authorizing the mayor to present his signature for the airport application.
Okay, are there any questions for staff? Okay, any public comments? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman White and a second from Councilman Cook. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? This item will move forward with recommendation for Monday evening. Next item.
Number 24B, resolution supporting the Cheyenne Regional Airport Board in the application for an acceptance of federal assistance from the Federal Aviation Administration under the Airport Improvement Program to assist the Cheyenne Regional Airport's master plan and airport layout plan.
Staff report.
So again, Renee Smith. So these are formula grants that the airport receives. They just require a signature from the mayor.
Okay, any questions from committee?
I'm not sure, Madam Chair, if it's for Renee or not, but I'm just curious if we have anyone available from the airport to speak to either one of these. It doesn't appear that we do. But no, to your report, I do not have any questions to that. Thank you.
Any other questions from committee? Any public comment? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt.
Second,
We have a motion from Councilman White to adopt and a second from Councilman Cook. Any discussion?
yes, Madam Chair, I will vote to approve this, but I think it would certainly be helpful. Hopefully, maybe there will be some representatives from the airport at the meeting on Monday night. I mean, even though really we are just the sponsoring municipality for this, I believe we should receive some information, frankly, about these, and I believe well, the public needs that information as well. So I would hope that someone from the airport can be available on Monday night to answer any questions or make a formal presentation on what they're doing.
Great. And our new economic project development person something like that. We'll make sure that they're there. When we're talking about millions of dollars, the least they could do is show up. I agree. So, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? Okay, the motion passes and it'll go with a recommend, seeing as we've gone through everything on the agenda. This meeting is adjourned.
I just